So, a little about Jeofrey before we delve into the session. Jeofrey is a noted customer experience and marketing expert, as well as a consultant, workshop leader, and an acclaimed author of three business leadership books. We'll be putting a link to his profile in the chat, so please do go ahead and check that out. He's internationally recognized for his work and as former adjunct professor of advanced marketing and customer experience leadership at the University of California in San Diego. Just a couple of housekeeping points. Any questions that you have for Jeff, please do go ahead and put those in the Q&A box or the chat, and I'll be sure to forward those on to him. And you can also connect to him on LinkedIn via his Zoom profile. So please do go ahead and do that. Feel free to reach out to Jeff. But with further ado from me, welcome, Jeofrey. Thanks so much for making the time today.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thanks, Chloe. And looking forward to talking about artificial intelligence and customer experience best practices. So, the goal here, of course, is to optimize the interaction with people. And I've often said that with all the tech going on, people have to kind of remember that people aren't digital. And so you got to kind of cross that divide. Before we get into it, just wanted to say that the two areas I'll be covering are customer experience intelligence and then best practices in customer experience leadership. And I've selected a few specifically so that you can optimize the human interaction with AI. So as we go forward, keep in mind that there's a lot of ways to apply artificial intelligence. Here, what I'm thinking about is that artificial intelligence can have three jobs. It can automate the analysis and reporting for customer experience intelligence. And this would be reporting about interactions, but also reporting that will help and build an overall strategy. Also, though, artificial intelligence could be an actual customer experience input in a portfolio along with other inputs, which I'll share with you in a few minutes. And then lastly, AI can be the actual customer experience interaction, as in with a chatbot and so forth. So kind of keep that in mind as we move forward. So regarding customer experience intelligence, a lot of people have their own definitions, and I'm being kind of reserved when I tell you that customer experience leaders have customer experience intelligence, and it really is intelligence that consistently helps them make good CX strategies, and then the specific interactions. You really should have your own definition of customer experience intelligence. In this case, it is cultural and systematic combination of inside and outside inputs from customers and also users when they're not the same thing. But it's about all the interactions they have with your business, online and offline. And the other interesting thing is that customer experience leaders don't use customer experience intelligence to strive for satisfaction. They use it to make interactions that will energize people to make referrals and do advocacy. And so in the circles below here, what we're seeing is a metric, the percentage of interaction frequency resulting in advocacy, very important. So as each interaction is developed, online or offline, you want to think about, okay, how can I use intelligence to develop that interaction to the point where that interaction alone would cause somebody to be an advocate for your company, your products, and your services. There's a lot of customer experience leaders, and they use customer experience intelligence very effectively. And what customer experience does for a company, first of all, is that it's prescriptive. And what that is it allows them to know what to fix in the customer experience at the interaction level and also higher up at the strategic level. The more advanced customer experience intelligence is predictive. And that means, of course, that you can anticipate very effectively what kinds of interactions that people would love. And again, whether it's customers or users, customer experience intelligence has to be timely. And then the companies and people I've worked with tell me that customer experience intelligence helps them reduce the guesswork associated with creating the interactions and strategies for profitable customer experience. So think about how are you doing customer experience intelligence today, and does it parallel what I'll be sharing with you in the next couple of minutes, or do you do it differently? A lot of the work that I've done with companies has really given me the impression that companies need to understand human interaction at a more deeper level. And so I've come up with the customer experience 4. And this is the minimum that companies should know about human interaction. And so it's the value of the interaction. In other words, how do customers and users value that particular interaction? The next thing is it's the range of emotions that people experience during the interaction. Is it positive emotion? Is it negative emotion? The third thing is customers' perception of how you're using their time. Now, this is different than the business's time or market time or time of day. This is the customer and how they're thinking about how you use their time in an interaction. And I like to ask customers, for instance, was your time online or time calling the customer service person, was that time used not well or very well? And then have them rate it, for instance, and tell me why. And it's very important because different kinds of customers and users have different perceptions of how you use their time. But the businesses that are using the customer's time very well, according to the customers, have an enormous competitive edge over other businesses. Then there's what I call do for or do to. What is your customer experience, including the products and services, people, your messages? What is that doing for people or doing to people? And so when people have an interaction with a business, and again, it's online or not online, people usually don't put it in the middle, like they're not ambivalent about it. The interaction is either helping them or hurting them. And it's very important to understand that. And so you really need to understand, are your interactions doing for people what they want and expect, or are they doing to them what is surprising and unwanted? Very important. So I find that when you use customer experience intelligence to understand these things, it gives you really more effective ways to create a customer experience strategy and also more effective customer experience interactions. Then, most importantly, is a portfolio approach to customer experience intelligence. And this is, as I've put on the slide, a group of carefully selected inputs from customers and users, and they can be from influencers also. And the reason why you want multiple inputs is because each kind of input for customer experience intelligence has strengths and weaknesses. And in order to kind of optimize this input or a group of inputs, it takes some testing. And some businesses use 10 inputs, others have whittled it down to 3. And the measure is, of course, are these inputs in a portfolio allowing you to give more insight to how you develop your customer experience strategies and how you will improve or innovate customer experience interactions. And so here's an example of an anonymized portfolio from a real business. And here we've got a group of inputs. And so we've got it by percentage of portfolio inputs. We've got the company using in-person interviews, which is also known as thick data, which I will explain in a bit. Ethnography, which is very careful and ethical observation. They look at web analytics. They've got artificial intelligence as an input for the portfolio. Internet surveys. in-app while people are using their software. They will ask them questions, and then they bring in and buy in big data. In this case, it's psychographics about the lifestyles of their customers, and they have a way of deriving insights from this combination of words and data and observation. But the important takeaway from this is that each one of these methods that they have, or inputs, has a strength and weakness. And each one of these offsets the weaknesses of the other. So that, for instance, when you're interviewing people, what people might say and what they do are two different things, or can be two different things. But if you're observing them and observing customers that are very much like the people you interviewed, now what's interesting is you've got a way to offset any error in the say-do gap, what they say versus what they do, because you're observing them. And artificial intelligence can help bring that balance also. So just to let you know, this particular portfolio is very well balanced with a combination of things, so that it brings up the accuracy of the customer experience intelligence. So think about that. And here's an example of one interaction. This is buying a product on the internet. This was actually buying supplies that were bought before in person at a store. But we've got numbers, we've got words, and then we've got observation, which isn't shown here. But basically, customers have been asked to rate along the customer experience for the emotional range, the value of the interaction, the time spent, and what it did for them or to them. So you see the ratings here, but you also see the words. And these are why. Why did you rate it that way? And this helps us understand whether the numbers are accurate or not. For instance, the emotional range was rated a 5, but the words indicate a much higher rating, intrigued or excited. So we're very much interested in understanding both the numbers, they can tell you what, but the words can tell you why, or observation can tell you why. And so if we go down to, for instance, time spent, it was rated at a pretty high 7, but the words also kind of correlate with that. It's quick. My time was very well spent. And so it gives us more insight to that. And when we've got observation of how people are using this interaction, and we combine it with these two other inputs, the words and numbers, that's a very powerful way to have intelligence about what's going on with this interaction when people buy these things online. So this gives you an example. Now, thick data is important because it's available from humans in a few ways, not many ways, but a few ways. And two examples are in-person interviewing and ethnography, which is skilled ethical observation of people while they're having that interaction. And you can also develop products and services this way. So thick data is information that comes directly from humans. There's nothing in between. And so this is very powerful, and it doesn't need to be made in as large a volume as other inputs into the portfolio. And I've given you a list here, including Netflix and Pedigo, for instance, that use a combination of human observation with their sales data, data analytics, and AI and so forth. And so it's very powerful. ServiceNow is also a great example there. So when you properly combine thick data to give you that whole human experience view, and you link it to the other inputs that are data only, and there's some inputs that really strip away the human experience, well, this adds it back in. Now your whole portfolio of customer experience intelligence and the insights coming out of that are much more effective. So it's pretty exciting, actually. And I've included here a link regarding Tricia Wang. She speaks for 16 minutes here about thick data. And this is probably one of my favorite ways for people to learn about thick data, because Tricia Wang describes it in such an incredibly useful way. Many of us who work in customer experience really knew this, but we did not know how to articulate it as well as she did. So I would urge you to see Tricia Wang's speaking about thick data on YouTube. Then we've got personalization here, and I've included this here for you as an example of one of the best, and this is Spotify. The personalization is a best practice that you want to personalize people's customer experiences and the user experiences they have within the customer experience using products and services. In this case, we've got Spotify as an example. And again, this is another YouTube video that I would suggest you watch. So I've included it here. But it's interesting that Spotify uses a portfolio approach. They use artificial intelligence, they use collaborative filtering, and they use thick data. And they actually use a human editor to look at the insights and also help assure that algorithms have less bias, because as certain data is accumulated, there could be bias from the software, there could be human bias, and so there's different checks. But the main takeaway here is that they've got the market share, the profitability, they've got artificial intelligence in there, but they also have a couple of other inputs into their customer and user experience intelligence that are actually making it very effective for them to predict what people will like, what songs people will like next. And so this is very good. And so again, I have Spotify on my ones to watch as far as customer experience and user experience, users of AI in the context of customer experience intelligence. So I would encourage you to go over there and check this out. So bear in mind, this is an example here of a customer experience journey evaluation tool. And I apologize for the small print. It's on an Excel sheet. It's never really made to be presented in a PowerPoint, but the main takeaways are this is one big form with important categories. And so I'm going to take you first across the categories that you should have, because you need a place to put this customer experience intelligence. And so the main thing is that a template, whether you're using a template in an automated application or you're using it for manual analysis and insights development for customer experience, you want to have interaction names. You want to understand the numbers of interactions people have with or about your company, and you want to have them numbered, and you want to have the names of the interactions. So we got those left to right across the top here, where you see discovery, consideration, visiting a shop, and so forth. And then there's categories down the left-hand side. And this is absolutely important to have a logical place to put the numbers and words customers have through your customer experience intelligence into a form where you can at a glance see what's working and what isn't working. And so here we've got off internet and on internet interactions, and it's subdivided by two categories. One is the interaction type people are having and what they're trying to do. What is the person trying to accomplish in that interaction? And then the other thing is the interaction description. What exactly are they interacting with? Is it a piece of hardware, a device, if you will? Is it another person? What are they doing? And this is off the internet and on the internet. Now you'll see right in the middle screen, we go further down the left-hand column of this evaluation template, we've got the CX4 in there. This is a place where we put the results of the value customers believe the interaction is having. We got the ratings, and then we've got a place to put selected quotes. We've got that same thing for the emotional range. We've got the same thing for use of time. Do for, do to. And again, at the bottom, number 5 there, selected quotes. Then at the very bottom left of this evaluation template, we've got the evaluator's estimate of the likelihood that the interaction would actually cause somebody to advocate and make a referral. Why or why not? And then the recommendations to fix the interaction, improve it, or innovate it, and then the decision description. And then, of course, how are we going to do this? And this is a fairly large Excel form. And if you would like a copy of it, it's on my website at delmarresearch.com. It's just below the picture of the book, Next Generation Customer Experience. But this is our best practice to have this. And many of the customer experience leaders have their data, words, and any of their other inputs organized by interaction. You've got to know what's going on with these interactions. So to kind of wrap up customer experience intelligence overview, you look at a portfolio of these inputs, and what we see is that different companies are at different stages. Certainly, there's a lot of companies that don't have customer experience intelligence. And then there's the ones that have it, and they do analysis based on the findings from the inputs. And then they then have a way of getting the insights out of this. This is usually with some human intervention, but it can also be with AI. But if it's an all manual effort, it's going to be with human interactions, even trying to get the insights from the inputs, which can work out very well. And then you have recommendations based on the insights. And then what are your objectives for developing the interaction or improving it or innovating it? Excuse me. The next level that we see of development in customer experience intelligence is number 2 here, which is that you've got a process that's partially, it's well tested and it's partially automated. And that speeds things up. It may be that there's the use of artificial intelligence or some other means to actually do the data sorting and interpretation of what words might mean for the experience people are having with the interactions. And then, of course, there's number 3, which is mostly automated with some human interactions to get the insights and recommendations to improve the strategy and the interactions. And this is where the most advanced companies are right now. The next generation customer experience companies are very advanced there. So let's chat about some best practices that could help you apply artificial intelligence to really optimize the human interactions that people have with your company. So first is that you want to have a high level of commitment to customer experience. And it can't be a project or an experiment. It has to be from the top down. There has to be a commitment to use customer experience intelligence and customer experience best practices so that you develop interactions and you're able to do testing along the way. And then the next best practice is really understanding which businesses set your customers' expectations. And this is really, it's almost like cheating, because if I understand, for instance, what my important customers and users like and don't like in a customer experience they're already having, and I understand why, it really gives me tremendous advantage to develop my own customer experience interactions and my own customer experience strategy to make it better and different. Now, in this case, what we've got is we've got 3 important customers, personas, if you will, to a particular business. And we've broken up the customer experience along the customer experience continuum. You know, people have experiences with people's messages, companies, people, their processes and technology, their products, and their services. So here we have an understanding, for instance, that persona 1 loves the messaging from Schwann's Frozen Foods Online, but persona 1 also likes the purchasing process of Amazon and loves their iPhone. And I think you get the idea that if we have this understanding and why, always important to understand why. If we really understand this, we can make a better experience or even exceed the experience people are having. By the same token, what I like to do also is do the inverse of that, which is find out what people believe are their worst experiences online and offline and make sure we don't do that. So this really is a great best practice. And then next is understanding customer experience time. And I know I mentioned this earlier, but really having an understanding of the different kinds of customers and users you have and understanding how they experience time and how they expect their time to be used by your company's messaging, your company's people, technology, products, and services, that's going to really allow you to apply artificial intelligence in a much better way, a very human-centric way. And humans are complicated, and especially the use of time, not just in B2B, but also in consumer applications. Another best practice that is one of my favorites, and I've seen this with a lot of companies that are either online companies or offline companies, is looking around at their industry and saying, hey, how can we develop concierge level customer service for my industry? And I had a recent pleasure of helping a company do this in the coffee distribution business, B2B, where they distributed coffee brewers. And what we did was we did deep interviews and looked at the data of some of their largest and most important customers and found out that they like the customer service at particular department stores. So what we did was we went to those department stores, did a lot of observation about how they use people time, how they serve them, and we brought that same kind of service to the customer service at this company and really ended up being the concierge coffee brewing service for these people. And it was tremendous. Actually, what we ended up doing was we ended up realizing that we should have some coffee brewers ready to go in case there is any type of failure. And that happened a few months after we decided to have these brewers just sitting around, as one person said. I said, yeah, but they're sitting around so that they can be used to quickly solve an important customer's problem. And so when there was a failure, that was concierge service. We'll have a brewer out there in a few minutes for you, and then we'll deal with the hardware manufacturer. And that's exactly what happened. And in the long run, we ended up getting a tremendously valuable referral because we didn't just have customer service, we had concierge level service. And within the context of the whole customer experience, it was a major move for the company. And going down to the bottom here, this is a best practice. You want to blend the internet and off-internet customer experiences. And this is incredibly important, especially now that people are having multiple interactions at once. And we're not talking about just two interactions here. And for Gen Z, for people born around 1995 and newer, it's even more important because, for instance, somebody could be in a store while they're on that store's website, while they're actually talking to the customer service person of that store. And that's three interactions at once. And so the more interaction choices there are, the more challenges businesses have for making them make sense to the customer before people are customers, and then while they're a customer, while they're actually having the experience, and then, of course, after when they advocate. And this is done through testing and observation. Several of the ways we talked about having customer experience about an interaction. And then we have our last two examples here. One is don't make me think. And I call it Krug's rule. Krug's rule is Stephen Krug, for his career, is a designer of websites and mobile apps. And when it came time to write his book, he decided to title it Don't Make Me Think, because he said that a really good design does not make people think too much. And what Steve said was that it wasn't that people were foolish or crazy or anything. It was that people are operating in environments where they may be distracted from focusing on an application or a website. It also may be that they have a lot on their mind. And so when you test for developing websites or mobile apps, and this includes using artificial intelligence for the actual interaction, you want to make sure that it's not putting too much pressure, or sometimes it's referred to as cognitive load on somebody, because you want them to actually want that interaction again and again. So you want it to be pleasurable. Lastly, if you go inside some of the leading customer experience companies, you will find out that many, if not all of them, they plan and develop and deliver interactions that create positive emotion for people. And this is true both for customer or consumers, B2B, as well as casual buyers. And so you want to plan to have an interaction, create this. And so the way to do that, of course, is through testing. And so you want to just not only look at the numbers and observations for an interaction, but what you want is you will want to have the actual observation of what emotions were created. So you want numbers, you want the words from customers, and the observation of the emotions created while you're developing that interaction. And that's going to help you be more human-centered. So I'm hoping that you found this very valuable. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me about artificial intelligence and customer experience best practices for optimizing human interaction.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for that fantastic presentation. And just to echo that, if you do have any questions for Jeff, you can reach him via LinkedIn, or as you can see with his email address there. We'll also put a link to his website where you can find and buy his books. So please go ahead and do that as well. But thanks everyone for joining us, and thanks so much, Jeff, for a great session.
Well, thank you for having me.